Hey guys, welcome back. I'm going to start with step 2, which is building the outdoor enclosure. So I'll take you through a step by step. I haven't built one before with a sense cap, so this will be the first time with this one. I've done one with a bobcat in the past, and that turned out really well, so hopefully we can replicate that here. This is just a basic enclosure. Comes with mounts for the back. We'll mount back here. And you set them aside, and it has a nice seal, so it's waterproof. And I'm going to port all of the fittings or cables that we need to send through the box from the bottom. And I'll show you how to do that. So sense cap fits in here pretty good. Bit of a tight fit, but I think it'll work. There's plenty of ventilation here, ventilation on the bottom, so you get plenty of air circulation. For this build, I'm going to do one without fans, and then after this build, I will do another one with fans. So you'll get to see both. Alright, so now that we have it mounted in here, or just sitting in here, we'll figure out where we want all of our ports to come through. So we have to take a few of the fittings that we have here. These are just pass-through bulkhead fittings that are plastic, and they have a rubber grommet on them. You can see here, this is the rubber grommet. And that seals any water from between the box and here. And as you tighten these up, they close around the cable or whatever you have and create a pretty much watertight seal. There's two different styles, or there's different styles of these, so it's up to you what you want to use. But for this purpose, I'm going to use these. I also have this one here for Ethernet, which is a different style. This passes through, it's also a bulkhead fitting. You have to plug in one cable here and another cable here and run it in. The nice part about this is as it comes through the box, you have a cap, so you can cap this off in case you don't want to use this. So I think I'm going to go with this style again. I really liked this in the past. It is one extra cable, but that's okay. What I found on eBay is you can find these short flat cables that are about a foot long, and they work really nice with inside the box. Alright, so let's get started. So we have some basic tools that we have to use. We're using a, let me move some of this out of the way. So I recommend getting a hole saw bit kit. These are just hole saws. You take a particular, I don't know what this is, drill that has a threaded tap on it that holds the bit in place for different sizes. I believe this one is a 3/4 inch or something like that. 7/8. So I'm going to be using a 7/8 on this one. And then these are also step drill bits, they call them. You can just continue drilling to a certain depth, and also, I'm sorry, the depth has different size diameters of holes that you can create. They kind of leave a weird burr, so you kind of have to do them from both sides. So I'll use these probably on a different fitting, but for now I'm going to use the hole saw bits. So these are some basic tools that we're getting started with, and we'll go from there. Alright, so close this up. Bring our box back. Now I'm just going to kind of guess here. So I haven't done this build before for a sense cap, so I'd like to leave a little bit of room. Part of the build is installing a PoE system. So PoE is power over Ethernet, and that's what will power this device, the sense cap. So we'll have power come in. This will convert from the Ethernet. So imagine this being the live cable. This is going to provide power for us. This is the Ethernet. This is the bulkhead fitting that is going to separate the power from the device. So this one's going to be on the outside, and this will thread through here. So we have to put one fitting through here. Once it comes into the box, I will have another Ethernet on this side. This Ethernet will be tucked around here somewhere on the bottom, and this will provide power to our switch. The switch has different voltages. I don't know if you can see them here. 12 volt, 9 volt, and 5 volt. And this is power, data, in. So that's where this is coming from. We're getting power and data from the modem or router that we're using. And so now this is powering and sending data. On this side, it's only putting out data on this side. It's not putting out power. So you get power and data here. Decide what voltages you want, and then you're only getting data on this side. And then this side is barrel adapter. I can get the dimensions for you later, but it's putting out just power on this side. So it's that what we converted down to 12 volt. I think this is 12 volt. I'll have to double check. 5 volt, 3 amp. So maybe it's 5 volts. So I'll switch this to 5 volt. But consult with your instructions before you set the voltage settings. It just says 5 volt on here, but I don't trust it. I'm going to double check. So here's power. And here's where I'm going to adapt the power to USB-C. So this barrel adapter goes into here, and this is a converter. And this converter, now I can take USB-C, or USB, regular USB, and convert this little tiny whip into USB-C. So now this will power your sense cap. So this cable will come around here, and you can see here. Now I'm powering my device with 5 volts, if that's what it is. I'm going to double check. And I can leave this cable in here. So now we're halfway there. This is almost completely done for just getting the power to the sense cap. And now I need to send data from the PoE switch to the router. So now I can slimline this little cable around, and now I'm sending data. So now we have data and power to your sense cap. And that's pretty easy. Took almost no time. And now the next step is getting our cable our antenna cable into the box. So now I need an adapter of some sort to get antenna power or antenna signal into the device. So this is RP SMA male, because it has, I don't know if you can see, it has a little tit that comes out, a little nipple in the middle. And then this side has RP SMA female, because it has an indent where the male nipple will go into the female port. So this threads into here, and this will be in the box. And just thread this on, snug it up. You don't have to over tighten this. I'm going to tighten this right now, just showing you how little you have to over tighten this. That's about it. Anything more than that, you're going to end up breaking your antenna, or at least the part where it's soldered on inside the device. It was less than a quarter turn, and now we have our bulkhead fitting, which will be threaded, which will be mounted to the bottom of the box also. So now I got to figure out, stick this all back in here, put our switch back in. We have our device. We have plenty of room in this box. We have our power here. And we have our data. And I want to figure out where I want the data to come in. So maybe I'll put the data here. No, because there's an antenna hole there. And I have our bulkhead for this. So I think this would be good right here. I'm going to drill a hole for that, so I'll figure out where to mark that. And I'm also thinking about the height here. I don't want these to run into each other, so what you want to do is make sure that this is a little bit higher in the box. So I'm going to put it somewhere here. I don't want to put it all the way down there, because then I'm going to run into fitting issues where this cable is going to be lined up directly with this, and that's bad. So you don't want it all the way down in the box. You want it somewhere up close to the front so you have room to manage this. So I'm moving this, and this is where it's going to go, somewhere up here. So I'll mark that. Let me grab a different pencil. Okay, I want this cable, which is the data cable, to come out, let's see, somewhere right about here. Data. And then I'm going to have my antenna cable somewhere right around here. And I want it a little bit higher. So now we can measure off of that. Okay, so we have two of the ports that we want to use. And we have to get our bulkheads through there. So we have a metal bulkhead for the antenna. This will adapt to the larger antenna. And it has a nut with a washer. It's a locking washer, or just a regular washer, but it's got locking on it. And then another, a bite-in washer. I don't know what they name these, but it has like little ridges on them that are really sharp, and they'll bite into the plastic so this doesn't move in the box. And then this little O-ring is what's sealing it. I'm putting all of my cables through the bottom because I don't want any rain to come in from the top of this box. So I can take everything out now, and now we can try and figure out with our marks where we want to put our bulkheads through and drill them out. Alright, so I'm going to take some measurements real quick with the marks that we made in the box. So this is about maybe 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches from the top of this lid here. So that should be a good spot, 1.5 inches. And then off of this, off of the edge of the box here, we're looking I guess that's about 1.5 inches also, and then 4. Okay, so I'll measure down off of the lid. 1.5 inches down. 1.5 inches down. And from the edge of the box, this is 1.5. Off of the edge of the box, we're at, let's see, 1.5. And this is our cross. And then at 4. 4 and 1.5. And we'll get them pretty close to level. Okay, now we can drill holes for these. The first one's going to be for the bulkhead. I'm not going to use the hole saw bit for this. I want to use the step bit because I'll show you here. These are very fine threads, and I don't think I can get a hole saw bit that is small enough and leaves enough room for the gasket. I'm going to have to use the step bit for this, so I'm going to start with a smaller step bit. You can actually tape this. Some people tape them. You kind of try and guess what the diameter is by going like this. If I'm looking at it, I can see some numbers that are labeled here. I would say it's about 3/4 maybe. So then what you can do is take a little painter's tape. I think I have some somewhere. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm going to give it a try without any painter's tape. So we're going to drill this out and see how it goes. I'm going to put this on mute so you guys don't have to hear the crazy drilling sound. Alright, so the size of that was 5/8. So if you have this bulkhead, I'll post the links to some of the fittings in the description below later. This is 5/8 diameter. So that fit in there pretty perfect. I mean, that's as snug as you can get. But you see how I went really slow and tested the different sizes, because if you overshoot the size, you can't go back. You get one shot at this. So just make sure you do it right. Alright, so the next one we're going to use is this one here. These are 1/2 inch, they say, but the outside diameter is probably something different. So we're at 3/4 an inch, about, maybe a little bit more than 3/4 an inch. I don't think this does 3/4. Let's see. Maybe it does. We'll find out. So I want this one in roughly the same spot. Oh, where's the one I'm using? Here it is. This is the bulkhead fitting for this. You can see how much larger it is than the other one. So this one might actually not work. Still not the size. Let's see. Close. Alright, that took all the way through. So that's the full depth of the step drill bit. And that is the size. So the maximum size on here is 7/8. So yep, that was the size that we were thinking. Alright. So now we have our 2 bulkheads through. And you want to get all the dust and particles and crap. You can take this out if you need to get below it too. Now there is one other thing I will do with this. I like to deburr the edges. This is a deburring tool. It has like a little sharp edge here, and you whip it around inside, both the inside and outside, to take the burr off, which is just the burr meaning the sharp edge that's left from cutting. To the inside. Okay. Clean up some of my mess here real quick. So what I like to do to secure the miners to the box is just use some zip ties. There's no reason to get into the mounting and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. A few zip ties will get this done for you, and you can cut this away pretty easily. So I put this in. If I'm lucky, I can sneak this around the back without having to take all the screws out. Yeah, probably not going to get so lucky. So what we got to do next is take a screwdriver, take these 4 screws out. So now you can see how this comes apart. Very easy. Okay. So there's just different holes there. And I'm going to lay this in here like this. And you can see how this can now strap to and hold down your device. Alright. I'm going to snip this off. Snipping tool. Put these back. Okay. So now what I do is I tend to leave these loose. I want to figure out how I can fish these wires in here the best. And that is always a little technical fun. No easy way to go about it, but trial and error. Just keep seeing what works. See if you can sneak these wires here. But you want to try and get everything on the sides. That's your best option, is that the power and Ethernet are just like this. Just sneak them down through the sides onto the bottom. So now they're out of the way. Get this side also. Snuck down on the sides. Okay. Let's see. Why do I have this backwards? Yeah, this is backwards, I think. Okay, so this goes this way. And then get power on this side, and Ethernet on this side. Make it look pretty. Okay. Looks good. That out of the way. Okay. Now you can strap in your device, and you don't have to do it very hard. You can just get it snug so it's secure. That is key, is don't put this in here so you can't get this out. My goal is to be able to remove this later or find some way that I can extract this if I need to without losing out, having to take this all apart again. So you just kind of tuck your wires in here. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is the bulkhead that we were talking about earlier. Has the cap, so I'm going to run my bulkhead through here. Figure out which way I want this to look. Something like that. Okay. And then there's a gasket on this side. Make sure your gasket's cleaned off. Make sure there's nothing in there. Get all the dirt and debris off because you don't want any water getting in here. Okay. And then thread this nut on. Or maybe I have the wrong nut. Let me try this one. That's the one. Okay. So that's aligned there. Now I can plug in my Ethernet. That's plugged in. Looks good. And the next step is to add my bulkhead for my antenna. And I'm going to put this in from the inside here and connect this to the antenna on the sense cap. So, like I said before, only a quarter of a turn. Just needs to be snug. Quarter turn, that's it. Don't need a wrench on it. Tuck some of that out of the way. And the next step is to add the different barb fittings for the bottom of the bulkhead. I'm just going to trim this out of the way a bit. Okay. Now I'm going to show you from this side. This is the sharp bit. Sharp parts go to the bottom. Locking washer for the top. And then a metal washer. Or metal nut, sorry. These are a little bit tougher threads because they have that cutted on the side, so you want to make sure that they go down without any resistance. If you meet resistance, back it out and start again. Something's wrong. That's cross-threading. So I'm just trying to get this to go down as smoothly as possible. You don't want to force this. You should just thread in like that. Okay. So now I'm holding the other side of the bulkhead, and I'm going to use channel locks. These are pliers, channel locks they call them. They come in different sizes. This is a crescent wrench. We're not using this. We could, but I guess I could use this. It's big enough. But you want to make sure it's not spinning the antenna wire on the inside. So you want to kind of hold that back and just snug this up. Doesn't have to be super tight. A few turns so it's just not moving. But you got to make sure that it's not spinning this wire inside the antenna cable. Alright, so that's it. That's pretty much a very basic build for anyone that wants to build an outside enclosure. There's very few fittings. And I'll show you the last bit here for this piece, for this particular adapter. You could just use a pass-through and then tighten that up, and that's it. But I'm using a little bit more of a fancy kind that has the cap on the bottom, so we can cap this off if we ever need to. And I need to tighten this nut also before I forget. Make sure you tighten everything. So tightening that. It's plastic, so don't over tighten it. Alright, so this comes apart, this fitting. You see the gasket which seals it. You don't need any Teflon tape for any of these fittings. Don't put Teflon on this, I will laugh at you. Just use the O-ring. Okay, so now we said we're going to use this as power. So this is coming from our router, our modem. And this is also creating the seal. You don't need to put anything around this. This splits. I think the split's open. Yep, it splits open. You put one fitting through here. Then you use this. And then you put this fitting through here just like that. And then you force that little gasket inside of there. And you thread this just snug for now. That's going to plug into here. And now you can thread this on here. That's threaded on. And now you tighten this up. And as you tighten this up, it creates a barrier seal here also. It's overkill, but it also prevents any moisture from coming in. The same way you could do with just using one of these with straight pass-through, but it creates an extra barrier. That's why I like this fitting. It's a bit of overkill, but it has an extra gasket in between, and it separates. So if you ever wanted to cap this off and remove the whole device, you don't have to take the fitting apart, pull everything apart, and try and do that. That's why these are a little bit nicer for accessibility. And you can see the zip tie is holding this in pretty well. It's not even tight. I can move this, I can take this out if I want. Everything's just sitting in here. Nice and snug. Nothing's pinched. Everything has room to move. There's good airflow in here. And this is a very basic box without a fan system. So what I'm going to be showing you is the last part. This is the LMR 400. This is, I think this is N female, and this is this is N female, this one here, and then this is N male. This is going to go to the antenna, or this is going to go to our bulkhead. So you can see on the inside of here, there's a female insert, and then this has the male little nipple on the inside. So this is going to go through here. This threads on. You just have to snug this up pretty good. Some people use extra stuff like tape and stuff like that to wrap these. I'm not putting tape on this, and I'll show you why real quick. I'm going to take this apart one more time. This is the seal right here. That inside there, that red part, that is your gasket. That is your other seal. So this is compressing. These threads are compressing by being pulled on the threads here. These threads are not sealing. Don't put any Teflon on these. You don't need Teflon. This is the gasket inside is your seal, that red gasket. And it's the face of it. The face of this is seating against that red gasket and creating a watertight seal. The threads only pull down to create pressure against the face, against this washer, the red washer. So you don't need any Teflon. You just push this on here a little bit, and then the threads snug it down and push that red gasket against the face of this bulkhead. That is your seal. I see so many people on YouTube doing something different, and it just makes me laugh. So that's it. You snug that up just a little bit, and then this is your antenna. Same thing. See the seal inside, the red seal? That is what's sealing against the face of this. So the face of this on on top, that is your seal. Same thing. Threading that in, and then you're going to snug this up. That's it. It's snug. That's it. It's tight. It's not going to leak. It's not going to get water in there. That seal is holding. Some people put tape on top of it too. You can do that if you want. This particular one has no grounding, so I want to preface that before I move further with my next build. I'm not using any grounding system on this. Most people prefer grounding, which is perfectly fine, but in the scenario that I'm installing this, I will not be using grounding. I can show you another build later with grounding that has an arrestor that goes in between here. But every time you use a new fitting, you lose dBi loss. Same with cable. Cable has a dBi loss also. That is why I use this heavy, thick cable called LMR 400. LMR 400 has a good low loss dBi loss per foot. It's a little bit more expensive, but it will save you dBi loss over the long run. And this is I believe a 10-foot run. That's about what I'm comfortable as far as dBi loss. There's loss even in between here and here, but it's very minuscule. You can measure this with charts online. So we have the antenna cable coming in. This is our bulkhead fitting with the whip, and then it connects to the bulkhead. Then you have your LMR 400. I have 10 feet here looped around, and then it's connecting to our 6 dBi antenna. And the antenna is going to be mounted on a long pole that I've set up on the roof of a chimney. All right, so this is your very basic system. I'll go through it one last time. You just saw the antenna and how that works. You have your power and your internet coming in through the Ethernet. You have no other power source but the Ethernet cable. It comes through this bulkhead fitting, which has a split adapter. So it means it separates here, and you unplug it from one end, and you plug it in here. You have your power and Ethernet going to your switch. This is a TP-Link PoE splitter. This one has voltage settings that we showed you earlier. And then you have your barrel adapter and your data. So now this is data and power coming in. So that the power was here, power and data here, splits into data and power going out to the device. That loops around the edge here. And then it plugs in here. You have data plugged in. Then we have our barrel conversion to USB, which I showed you. This is the barrel conversion. Just a little dongle adapter, splits it to USB. And then this USB is a little whip that goes USB to USB-C, which powers our device now. And that is it. This is your most basic setup for an outdoor enclosure. The box is pretty minimal price, maybe like $40 or so, maybe $50. Some fittings, the bulkhead fittings are pretty inexpensive. The splitter and the adapter cables. And then you have your wire and your antenna. And the one last thing you'll need to run this is the Poe Injector. I have that here. There's different ways to run a Poe Injector. So from your modem, you can run a router that has Poe. This is a more advanced system. This has power over Ethernet in, so you take from your modem to here. This creates Poe and then ejects Poe out of port 5, and that will run this device and give you power and act as a router and a switch. This is the very basic system that you can get, which is a Poe Injector. And a Poe Injector just has a power cord. You plug this in here. You plug this into your wall. You take Ethernet from your modem or your splitter, whatever you have. So you take your Ethernet. So say this was coming in from your Ethernet, from your house, from your modem, or your switch. You put your Ethernet into this port. This is coming in. And then this would go directly to your box. So this would run up the side of your house or wherever you can run it, through an attic, through the side of a garage, whatever. And this is feeding Poe, power over Ethernet, to your device feeding this whole system. So the whole system gets powered just by a very simple device like this, or a particular switch that you can use to do the same job. You would just take the power from the modem, that would be coming in here, and then this port 5 is PoE out, and that would power your device just like that. So this is the alternative to use, just like this. So either one, they will both do the same job. This is a very simple device. This is a little bit more advanced setup. So that's it. The next step, I'm going to do a more advanced build with fans. I can give you a quick brief on that. So the next setup would be adding vent ports for ventilation. And the vent ports will be drilled into here. And then I'm going to mount fans onto the back of these. So there'll be fans here with a fan controller to control the fans through a thermostat. And I'll show you that all in the next step. But that's it for now. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you like this build. If you do, hit the like button. And I'll share a lot of this information, the build list, and a lot of the parts